2. If you'll stand with us, Vicki Kivett will lead us in prayer, and Troy Sprinkle will lead us in the pledge.
Go first.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for the opportunity to live in a land that is free. And we know that there are many places on our earth, that are living in unrest times. We pray that you be with the people that need you, that need healing, that need peace. We just pray that our meeting tonight be productive, that our work here be pleasing to our constituents, and we ask that you be with us and guide us in our days ahead. Amen.
Amen. We have a pretty full agenda this evening, and a couple of, put these glasses on, a couple of public hearings that were going to take place within the meeting, so there'll be some moments where we kind of go out of the regular meeting into a public hearing and out and back in again. So bear with us as we go through the agenda this evening. First, look for a motion to, do we not have minutes? Oh, yeah, they're there. From the February 7th, 2022 minutes, have everybody had a chance to review those? Are there any questions or changes?
Chip Keller, make a motion to approve the February 7th minutes as presented.
We have a motion on the floor to accept the February 7th minutes as presented.
Melissa Green seconds that.
We have Chip and Melissa. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Same sign. Minutes carry 7-0. So moving on to our additional appropriations, there was the $10,800 we had listed for COVID testing supplies, and we had meant to get that, from our last meeting, we had meant to have that advertised to come under the ARPA funds, and I think there was a mix-up on that, so I kind of look for just a motion to table that so that it can be re-advertised under the ARPA funds.
Vicki Kivett makes a motion that we table the $10,800 under the Commissioner's request to the following month.
Thank you, Vicki. Have a motion.
Jason Maxwell seconds.
Thank you, Jason. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor for tabling the $10,800 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0 to table. I think some of those other things were just other places it could come from, so we're going to move on down to our bullet points. And Dan, I'm going to look to you to, there's the first thing that comes up is the ordinance transferring the $1 million. Oh, I'm sorry, yes. We can come back to that. I apologize. Is Jeannie here?
Yes.
We do have a request for an additional appropriation of $27,956 from the County Health Department for a position, and Jeannie's, I think, going to explain that to us. And it was in our packet. Did everybody get a copy of that letter?
Yeah, that real long letter that y'all saw.
Tip your mic down a little bit, Jeannie.
Yeah, I would like to retire by the end of the year, asking these funds to hire someone, get someone hired in and kind of walk with them along, throughout the next 8 months or so, and so that they get a good idea of what I do, what the job entails, and get someone trained in well before I do leave. As I said in my letter, if if that person's caught on and is doing well, then I'll be glad to leave early. I'm not, wanting to delay it, but I do want to make sure that the person knows what they're doing. And I mean, I need to get them through a budget time. I need to get them through our quarterly board meetings, because we kind of, things are touched in each meeting that's, not in every meeting, different things are discussed and talked about, coming to some council meetings, doing annual reports. I have to do an annual report for the Local Health Maintenance Fund and the Trust Fund, and then a another annual report for the state, for the whole department, the department as a whole. So there are just a lot of things that are entailed with my job, and I would like to work with that person, you know, as much as I can before I do wrap it up and retire again, so.
Is there
Have you already
questions?
selected someone, or do you have someone?
No, we haven't we haven't started an ad or anything, no. And then we're also going to be hiring another vital records clerk, so, and training that person, so.
Is there anyone in your office now that can do your job? I mean, if you were
No one,
incapacitated in any way, there's not someone that can,
no. And I had wanted to try to train the girls that are in the office with me, but they have their own plates full with what they do, and then COVID hit, and we were all, you know, bombarded. I mean, you wouldn't believe the calls that the health department received through COVID.
oh, I'm sure.
I mean, it's just been, you know, it's been a lot. And then I had extra grants. I think I got, we had 3 grants in 2020, additional, besides what I normally work. And then this year, we've got 2 extra ones. So, yeah, I haven't had time to try to show anyone else my job, and they haven't had time for me to show them.
Right.
So, it's,
Would any of this new grant money, I know you've got a new grant here just recently, can any of that new grant money be used to help pay for the administrative costs of training this new person?
not
or
that. That's totally for COVID stuff. I mean, I did mention to Josh this evening that we do have some local health maintenance and trust account money that has been rolled over through the years. And if you all would prefer I ask for that, if you all will support that, then I would be glad to ask the state to use some of those funds, if you'd prefer me to do that.
How much is there, Jeannie?
On the rollover money, about 200,000. It's,
And what can you use that for?
we can use it for salaries and the type of thing that I would need, yeah.
Have you ever done that before? Used
Oh.
it for salaries?
Oh, yes, definitely, yeah. In fact, right now, I do have a request into the state for an environmental specialist part-time, and then also for a part-time position. But we use it for nurses, you know, various salaries.
Since this is hopefully just a one-time expense, you know, it's not an annual ongoing, I think it might be a good use of those funds.
I agree.
It sounds like.
I'll be glad to do that.
You've got adequate funding for the other things you're paying out of that for this year also, right?
For local health maintenance and
Right.
trust. Yeah, that is, what I'm talking about is totally rollover from previous years. It's not anything to do with the budgets this year.
So you would if you choose to do this, you would send a request to the state, and how long would it take them to approve it?
Let's see, if I badger them a couple times, they are normally fairly quick. I mean, yeah, if I let them know it's kind of an emergency or that, yeah, they usually get on it.
Within a month?
Usually, I would say a month or 2, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But this would be at a full-time rate, so we'd also have to take into consideration if we're adding on a full-time employee, this would be your salary you're looking at, but we would also incur some, if they opted for benefits, we'd be looking at that additional cost as well.
Yeah. And talking with Dan, we kind of felt like I may have enough money in this year's budget for that.
Okay,
But I could also ask for that out of the fund if yeah. In fact, that's usually the way they like for me to do it, pay
Okay.
them benefits out of the
Well, why
same
don't-
fund.
why don't you do a little homework on that, see what you can find out, and I think we'll look tonight for just to table this until we can get some additional information to see if those funds could be utilized in that capacity. Is that what I'm hearing?
Okay.
So
That'll
what-
be
For you to do, right?
fine. Pardon me?
One more thing for you to do.
Right direction.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great solution.
So I look for a motion to table the request for the $27,000 95520 as an additional appropriation from the Board of Health.
Chip Keller makes that motion.
Chip, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Melissa Green will second that motion.
In seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Jeannie. And again, we're sorry for your loss.
Jeannie, how long you been with the county? First time.
Altogether, I think I'm heading toward 31.
31 years. Thank you so much.
Yes, we appreciate
She
your years
retired
of
once and
service.
came back to us.
Yes, she was thrown back in. Okay, I think that ends our additional appropriations for this evening. We'll move into some other things we have there at the bullet points at the bottom of our agenda. I'm going to look to Dan. Last meeting, we had discussed moving money from the county general fund to the county rainy day fund in the amount of $1 million.
Right, there was a motion in the last meeting. Tonight, all that really needs to be done is to sign the ordinance at the end of the meeting, so
Okay.
I put it on here so we didn't overlook.
All right, I appreciate that. Next, we have the ordinance amending the EMS compensatory time. You know, we had voted on that last meeting, but there's been some question on, just clarification on how that's to be paid out, so.
No,
no?
that's not that.
Oh, this is different?
This is also something that,
Oh, is this part you're going to explain to us?
well, this is what's approved by the commissioners, and now it needs council approval.
Oh, okay. I guess I'm not looking at the right part of it.
What are you you're talking about comp time and the,
We've got the amending the EMS comp time. Okay, so they're two different issues. I apologize, folks. Go right ahead.
So last month, Keenan had talked with you guys about raising the pay rates for his employees, and he had a process and how he outlined that he
No,
wanted to.
hang on. We got two
no.
different things going on.
no, this is the ordinance for the amendment to the comp time and the PTO time.
Correct.
That doesn't have anything to do with the rate of pay.
It's interrelated,
It-
so,
It was something that was brought to you last month, and we did not have the ordinance ready, so we didn't bring
Right.
the ordinance to you.
Right.
So we've now brought it to the commissioners, and they have signed it, and so now it's up to the council to take a look at that.
Okay,
Right.
And that is raising the the comp time for EMS employees that is allowed to 240 hours.
yeah, so my thought process there is, and we've actually already seen it with this most recent pay cycle. It's the lowest that I've seen since taking office over a year ago. So what that does is we decrease the amount of PTO, but then on the back end, we bumped up the comp time. So it's a win-win for those folks. They turn around, they work overtime, and then a lot of what they're doing, since we live and work in an uncontrolled environment, they like to have that extra cushion in comp time, so if they are injured on the job, they have some extra cushion to go along. Also, when they choose to take comp time over overtime, it's budget saving because that then bounces into a bank, and we're already starting to see the fruits of that labor develop with that transition and folks taking comp time, picking up overtime, banking it as comp, so on and so forth. So that's the reasoning behind that.
okay. And you're still continuing to see that reduction in payroll that you're seeing?
We had, our last payroll was $87,000, and I have not seen a payroll since taking office as a training officer in September of 2021? No, 20. I have not seen a payroll less than $94,000. So
Good.
it's already starting to come.
Good move.
So this is ordinance 22-5 or 22-6? It's 5.
22-6
Okay.
is
The other one.
He's looking.
Okay.
The 22-5 is the change in the accrual of the comp time,
Okay.
and 22-6 is the
PTO.
change in the accrual of PTO.
TO, okay. So we're looking for a motion to amend the EMS compensatory time, ordinance number 22-5. Time?
Kelly O'Connell will make the motion to approve ordinance 22-5 for the comp time resolution or ordinance.
Troy Sprinkle, second.
In favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Next is the, do you want to give anything on, you've already gone over this, correct?
No,
The
I
PTO.
don't think I have for the council.
Okay.
So when we originally did the handbook, we had a formula in there of how you figured your PTO time, depending on your hours worked, times so many days, and that gave you your amount. However, since then, we have changed the way that Sheriff's Department, the formula for them to get their PTO, and for EMS, so we're striking that paragraph out of the handbook because it is no longer necessary and it's no longer true for the way everybody's PTO is figured.
So you're talking about that 72 hours that it looks like it did say it has a strike through it?
No, that would have been for the one that you just.
Okay.
So this would be 2022-6?
22-6, yes. EMS PTO.
It should be just
It's-
PTO.
Yes, and it's just
Okay.
removing those two sentences in there. It's not adding anything.
It is not adding anything?
It's just removing those two sentences
At the
from
very bottom of the
the
page.
handbook.
Mhm.
I have no issue. You want a motion?
Is that a motion?
Yes, Kelly Collin make a motion to approve ordinance 22-6, striking out two sentences in the employee handbook.
Jason Maxwell seconds.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Same sign. Motion carries 7-0. You want to stay up here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, because the next. Do we have anything else for them? That was it? Was that it for him?
Yeah, this wage amendment.
I thought,
Okay.
hand out these,
You want to discuss the amendment? I think he's got something on this, too.
Yeah, he has three, so I appreciate Dan for doing this. That way we can get on the same page. There was a lot going on that night, so I'll take the onus on that, on not fully explaining and getting in the weeds on this particular subject. Long story short, though, what we ended up moving when we restructured everything, we went from years of experience to years of service. So Dan has three proposals for you. The one that I am fully in favor with, because it goes all the way back to the date of hire for these full-time folks, Morgan County employees, is the one that I would strongly suggest, if I can, humbly, to adopt there. That will encompass all of my employees. Currently, right now, when Dan and I started pushing some numbers and going through that, we had 2 employees out of all the full-timers that we had that fell just shy of moving into that 4th year of service. So now what we're looking at is 1, 2, 3 years of service with paramedics, with the option to laterally transfer someone who's coming in with more than 1 year of service. We can bounce them into that second slot, and they'll remain in that second slot until they hit their 3rd year, in which time that's when they top out. On the other side of it, we've got 5 tiers for EMTs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So when I went to pull the numbers, I found that there was 2 employees that should have been, if we adopt the policy that I'm all for, moved into the 4th year slot. They actually, if we go to the month of the amendment, they would actually fall out just shy of 30, even though they are in their 4th year of service. So I know, it's about as clear as mud. Does that make sense?
well, the memo that I included in your packet.
Yeah, that's,
In that memo, the one thing that we need to change with the salary ordinance is previously it read years of experience, now it's going to years of service. So that's just a
Okay.
matter of switching words.
all right.
The other change is that we overlooked, or I overlooked, that night in all the hectic activities, that with the first tier, we simply had it as 1 year, but we really need that to be 0 to 1. And that's another change. The other change is that there needs to be a definition of when an employee accrues that or moves from one tier to the next. And I think there are at least three options, and you might come up with a fourth, but the three that we are proposing is that what Keenan is, what he's advocating is the first bullet point, that the moving to the next tier begins at the beginning of their year of service. So if you're going from 2 years to 3, when you start that third year, that's when he is advocating that the rate of pay change. The other option is that the change to the next tier would occur at the end of your years of service or at your anniversary date. So if you're going from 2 to 3, the first example was that you would begin, that would start when you begin your third year. In the second example, you would go to the third year once you've completed 2 years of service. And then the third option is that the jail, sheriff, and dispatch, their change in rate of pay occurs from the full years of service completed at the end of the previous year, or at the end of the year that just ended. So whenever the medic or the EMT, whatever full years of service they would have on December 31 of 2021, that would indicate what tier that they would be in. So for the 2-year, 3-year person, to go to the third tier, you would have to have completed 3 years of service on or before the end of 2021. I'm going to stop there, because if I go on, I'm going to start. I probably have already confused you, but there's 3 different options.
The sheriff, the jail, and dispatch currently operate on that setup, correct?
That's correct. That's what they proposed, and that's what the county council has adopted for their, because they're the other 2 or 3 departments that have a matrix that in years of service that determines what their rate of pay is.
Is there any questions of my fellow council members?
So can I add one thing real quick? So when I pulled the pay study, I researched it from A through Z. So exactly what I was proposing is exactly what all our competition's doing out there. That's the reason I proposed it the way that I did. If that makes sense or helps.
Your competition, not your other departments within the county.
Our competition, yes,
Okay.
ma'am. I'm not too sure what the other departments in the county are
I
doing.
think that was just
Oh,
explained,
I'm
yeah.
outside of EMS, I'm sorry.
Right,
Other
outside.
EMS entities, yeah.
Questions, comments?
Vicki Kivett will make a motion that we go with the plan that currently shadows what the sheriff, the jail, and the dispatch are currently doing, so that there be uniformity throughout the county of the merit employees.
We have a motion to go with the years of service, as I understand it, that the same that the jail, the sheriff, and dispatch uses.
Troy Sprinkle, second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Come up and explain your need for an assistant at the highway department.
We've kind of addressed this in previous meetings.
assistant highway superintendent. And at that time, we adjusted the salary ordinance because we had a crew bus that was not getting a vehicle, but we had others, and so we did some equalizing across the line, across the highway department for those crew buses. However, at that time, we also brought to you, we have a crew bus supervisor that is making the exact same amount of money as the crew buses that he is supervising. So you guys had asked us to go and get the updated job description, which you have before you. They have placed this position in a salary exempt position because over 80% of the duties are supervisory, and that would qualify according to the Fair Labor Standard Act, those rules. And so this would place this within the PAT 3 category, which would be pretty much an equivalent to the shop foreman that had been approved. I don't remember when that was approved, sorry. But, so we're just asking that we make this change for the assistant highway superintendent. He was previously classified as a crew bus supervisor. Since Grant has come in August, he has taken on a lot of responsibility and is learning and doing very well, and Grant is very appreciative, correct? Does a great job. So we're just asking, I think that we would like to make this effective. Today would be like the first working day of the week for this pay. So we'd like to ask that we make this effective on March 7th, if possible.
Oh,
We're talking a salary difference of around between $5,000 and $6,000
oh, I see. Okay, I'll ask about that.
for a lot more responsibility and a guy that's really stepped to the plate when we needed him the most.
And that is definitely something that needs to be mentioned. I mean, this individual that we're talking about, I'm telling you, your county would be shut down if he was not a part of it.
And I think you guys met earlier and had discussion, and so I kind of look to you to give us guidance on this since the employment committee met prior to our meeting for this.
It came out of our committee, we all voted in favor, therefore Vicki Kivett makes a motion that we approve the job reclassification and salary as presented.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second, but I do need to clarify one thing before we move on. The salary ordinance, we had it down here to make it retroactive back to January 7th.
We had talked about that, and we had gone back to listen to the council meeting as to what was said. And then after discussing with Grant, this gentleman has already worked many, many hours on the storms that we had.
Okay, so it'd be hard to read.
Quite a bit of overtime. So to make it cleaner.
No, that's fine.
I feel like we should do it from
Today's date.
today.
Okay, we can change that, right?
I'm sorry, Dan, that was me.
I just wanted to clarify, because Dan's just got to change the form that we have to sign, because we had it down for this. So he can change that, though. So I didn't mean to interrupt. Who had made the motion? Vicki?
Vicki and Kelly.
So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Motion carries 7-0. And I thank you for the clarification.
No, thank you guys very much. I appreciate it.
Do a cartwheel down that center aisle now, Grant.
So I'm not going to send this one down because we're going to have a different day. Go back.
Three.
Who are you?
One more time, what date did you want this?
Today.
Today or tomorrow?
Is today the first day of payroll?
Today is the first day.
Is the first day of the payroll.
So the other
Thank you.
guy, the other position, it would be today also instead of,
Today is not the first day of the payroll, is it? No, today is not the first day of the payroll.
No,
It would have been
Saturday.
last,
It would be Saturday.
well, yes, but it would have been,
it's the second week of payroll.
payroll is the 18th, so that's the next pay date.
So what date are we going to put on this motion?
It would,
I want my motion to
would be
be
the
for the
fifth.
full week.
the 5th would be the first,
For the next pay.
for the next pay. Yes, that's what we, check me out, make sure
Okay.
I'm correct on those payroll dates.
And, okay.
I'm confused.
So
It's
the
just
18th
dates. They'll get it worked out.
would be
But I
the
want it in the
next
motion.
pay. So pay would be due on
You'll work it out.
we'll do it for this pay and we'll do a full 2 weeks for this pay, if that's agreeable.
Okay,
Okay.
so make your motion effective this pay.
Effective this pay.
Correct.
Okay.
Motion addition. You can't do it just like today?
Well, we'd rather not.
Okay.
It's neater and cleaner to do it on
Are you, well, if you want it for
No,
this,
we-
No, it'd be better.
Next pay period begins on March 12th.
Well, then let's do
So
that.
we'd have to go back.
That's next Monday.
So we'd have to go back to the 20th.
Okay.
I'd rather go forward.
March 12th.
Effective March the 12th, this change to be in effect.
He's already
Okay.
You're right, so we're just going to do that.
Okay,
Yeah, that'll be easier.
I'm with
neater
you.
and cleaner. Okay. So,
yeah.
so we have a motion and a second to make March 12th the amendment of the salary ordinance for the highway superintendent assistant. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Doree. Thank you, Grant. We're clear to move in, but do you want to, which way do you want to go? Okay. That one. So you don't want to do this first, because we got other stuff? I think we opened the public hearing. Okay. Up next on our agenda packet is the bond issue, but we need to have a motion to adjourn for the moment out of our regular meeting. So I look for a motion to adjourn from the regular meeting.
Troy Sprinkle make that motion to adjourn.
And Kim Meredith will second. All those in favor of adjournment of the regular meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I look for a motion to move into the public hearing on the preliminary determination to issue bonds for a public works project.
Vicki Kivett makes a motion that we open this meeting.
Kim? All in favor signify by saying aye. Motion carries 7-0. We are in the public hearing now of the preliminary determination to issue bonds for a public works project. Josh, are you going to present on this or begin the presentation?
Yes, good evening, everyone. We have some people who are much smarter than myself here to assist us tonight. And so I thought what would be helpful would be to have our bond attorney, Zach Klutz, kind of open us up. I don't know that any of you all have gone through the bond process before, maybe Vicki, but to give an overview of how we go from where we are tonight to where we need to go at the end of this process. Then we also have Jason Simler from Baker Tilly here. Feel free to ask any questions. He may have some things he wants to proactively share with you. Once they're done, the commissioners will come up and give an explanation of where we are and where we're headed, and then we'd be happy to hear anything from the public at that point.
Great. Sounds good. Good evening.
Hey, good evening, Council. As Josh indicated, my name is Zach Klutz with the Taft, Stettinius, and Hollister law firm. And we'll
Can
be
you tilt your microphone to just attend? Thank you.
I'll just start over. My name is Zach Klutz with the Taft, Stettinius, and Hollister law firm, and we'll be serving as bond counsel with respect to the proposed general obligation bonds that the county intends to issue. So this evening is the first step in the process, and I think tonight we'll have kind of 4 components to it. I'd like to just kind of walk through the bond process and what will be coming before you on a variety of occasions to ask for and to do. Baker Tilly is here to talk about the financial parameters of the bond and the financing. There will be an opportunity for someone with the county to speak to the project. What is the project and what will the bond proceeds be used to finance the construction of? And then finally, by statute, we need to open the hearing up to any public comment or questions. So that's what we'll do tonight. Why are we having a public hearing? Why is this the first step? This project and this financing is intended to be supported by property tax revenues, a general obligation bond, and it's also in excess of the statutory threshold of currently about $5.8 million. So once you hit those 2 factors, property tax revenues paying for the debt service and a project in excess of $5.8 million, the statute says you hold 2 hearings, public hearings, before you make a preliminary determination to issue the bonds. So tonight, we're going to hold our first hearing. both for presentation of the project, the financial terms, as well as public comment. We'll do that again sometime, I think it was originally thought to be March 21st, but that might be moved. We'll do that again. We'll then present and I'll pass this out tonight. There's no action item this evening, but I will provide a draft of the preliminary determination resolution that would be considered after the second hearing sometime in March. And so you can get a feel for what that is. Once that, or if that is passed, there will be a notice published that this preliminary determination to issue bonds has been made. And that opens it up to a period where if enough people sign a petition to kick it into a petition or remonstrance period, that can happen. So there'll be a 30-day period. Assuming that does not happen, the next step would be a bond ordinance. And the bond ordinance would be a much larger document that sets forth all of the financial terms for the debt issuance in the bond. We would then work with Baker Tilly on a process of marketing the bonds and selling the bonds through a competitive bid process to get the lowest net interest cost for the county. And once a purchaser has been secured, we would, right now tentatively at the end of May, close on the bonds, and the county would receive the funding to pay for the project. So that's the process. I think we would have, obviously one other meeting for the public hearing. We will then have 2 other meetings, depending on your guys' process for passage of ordinances. I believe we would probably introduce it at a meeting, and then at the next meeting have discussion and passage if it's a 2-step process. A lot of counties or municipalities are different. So that's I'd be in front of you guys 2 or 3 more times, depending on how often you guys want me here. So let's just look at my notes here to see if there's anything I missed that I wanted to. If I could, I'll just pass out a draft of the preliminary determination resolution.
That'd be great.
That would be, again, no action item tonight. This will be what we would do at the next public hearing. I've also attached a list of financial information that by Indiana statute is required to be presented to you and at the hearing. Baker Tilly, Jason will present kind of a more summary of the bond parameters. This speaks to more the debt levy and the tax, or the debt and the tax levy that will be initiated if the bonds are passed. So it's currently dated March 21st because I think that's what we thought. We'll
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll walk through this real quick before I sit down. I'll turn it over to Baker Tilly.
Thank you.
One thing you'll notice here is this preliminary determination resolution is the resolution that will be considered at the next meeting and really sets forth the terms of the bond, and this will also set forth a lot of the information that will be in the public notice that's published after this is adopted, if it is adopted. And so what you'll see is that the parameters of the bond, and Baker Tilly will talk about this further, is right now we've sized it as an amount not to exceed $16 million. The interest rate cannot exceed 5%, although we are anticipating bonds that will be issued in the amount of $14,915,000, and we are estimating an interest rate range of between 1.25% and 2.55%. If those interest rates come in where we think, and we issue bonds for $14,915,000, the total estimated interest cost to the county would be $1,670,000, with I believe an annual estimated debt service of $1,682,000. Again, Baker Tilly will speak much more eloquently about that. But this is the preliminary determination, meaning you have made a preliminary determination to issue debt in this amount. This will be, for the most part, the public notice. And then the bond ordinance will be a much thicker document that will set forth more financial terms that the purchaser of the bonds will be interested in. So, at this time, I can answer questions now. I can answer questions towards the end. I thought I would turn it over to Baker Tilly to talk more financial parameters of the bonds.
Good evening.
Evening. Again, Jason Simler with Baker Tilly. I come bearing gifts. Again, Jason Simler with Baker Tilly, and I serve as your municipal advisor for the county on this project. And these are, you'll probably see, these are very similar numbers that I handed out a couple of months ago when we kind of were first going through the project, but did want to update them for you and see if you had any questions since then. But if you turn to page 2, this is the estimated project cost. The project's still being designed as far as the size and format, but these were kind of the same numbers that we talked about a couple of months ago. The $14,565,000. We allowed a placement holder for an underwriter's discount or placement fee of 0.75%, or that $111,000. And then we allowed some costs for issuance costs and some additional contingencies. So you're looking at a total project size of $14,915,000. Again, that will be known better here next couple of months as the design continues. But again, as Zach said, what's in front of you, decided to go forward, is not to exceed $16 million. But we're anticipating to be more in this range. We just always put together parameters. That way we can always go below that number. We just can't go above that number, or we have to go back in front of you. So we've taken that $14,900,000, and if you turn to page 3, this is how it's anticipated to be repaid back. Based upon some preliminary discussions that we had a couple of months ago, we were looking at trying to get this paid back as quickly as possible within reason. So we're looking at a 10-year repayment. So this is right under 10 years. With the parameters that you have in front of you, it talks about not to exceed 15 years. Again, that's given us some flexibility to extend it if we want to. But the numbers that Zach was talking about, you can see the interest rates of 1.25% to 2.55%. Again, we're allowing up to a 5% interest rate. Again, we're anticipating something much less than that, but again, allowing for that flexibility.
Is there any penalty to pay it off early?
We can structure that. That's the negotiation. Usually we do have like a maybe 8 to 10 year call. Again, this is right at that 9.5. So we can structure it so it's sooner, but you usually do pay, you pay kind of a penalty up front because people who are going to want to buy these bonds, they want to know they're going to be outstanding for 8 to 10 years. Mm-hmm. If we structure this so they can be paid off within 5 years or 8 years, we can do that, but you'll probably pay a little bit higher interest rate. So if we don't think we're going to pay them off early, I'd recommend not having that call feature. If we want to have that flexibility, we may want to look at 8 years. And as we get closer, I can kind of show you the pros and cons of what kind of additional cost that will be.
Thank you.
And one thing that you'll probably notice is the interest rates. I know right now, one of the things I get asked is, what's the bond market doing right now? Well, it's kind of hour by hour, day by day, it's changing. And if you look at the schedule now compared to what I sent you last fall, these rates have gone up. We had some cushion in there, and we've ate all through that cushion. Rates have gone up quite a bit. And there's some cushion in here that I'm anticipating that I think between now and we sell the bonds in May, if you decide to go forward with the project, I think they'll be a little bit higher than what they are today. And I've tried to include that in here. But as you can see, based upon these rates and about 25 to 50 basis point cushion, it's about 0.25% to 0.5% cushion, you can see your annual payment's about $1.6 million.
Has there been any discussion about the first 23 debt service where we would be taking those funds since they're not going to be?
Yeah, I was going to bring that. Very good question. As you know, in order to get a rate in place for this year to make that first bond payment, that's something that we would have had to have advertised in last year's budget and actually close on the bonds last year. And of course, we just couldn't do that at that time. So you see that first payment that's due January 15, 2023, we don't have a rate in place to make that payment. But talking to Dan, that's something that we kind of knew about last year. You guys have some cash on hand that you could apply, or you're accumulating some funds throughout the year in some various funds. I think edit was one that had been discussed. So that is one thing that you as council, that first $1.5 million, that will be paid from cash on hand. So that's a number that we can, if you don't feel comfortable that that's too high, or if you want to try to pay more principal down, that's a number we can manipulate based on your comfort level and how much cash on hand. But we wanted to try to pay as much principal off as soon as we could, just to lower the impact to the taxpayers. Because you can see right here, based upon that $1,680,000, the tax rate's about 4 cents per $100 of assessed value. So the more principal we can pay, the smaller the impact. So that's something that we will need guidance from you on how much you feel comfortable making that first principal payment. So then for 23, so on your budget for 23, for next year, you will have a tax rate of about 4 cents, assuming you levy for the entire amount. Going forward, you could decide, hey, we have an extra $500,000 of edit or some other money from another fund, and we want to apply that towards this bond payment, so you don't have to levy for 100% from property taxes. And that's an annual decision that you can make. But assuming that you levy the entire amount with property taxes, if you turn the page, we've showed that on that 4 cent tax rate, for a home with $100,000 of gross assessed value, that would be an annual increase in their property taxes about $9 per year. For a $160,000 house, about $20 a year. For a commercial facility with $100,000, about $30 a year annual increase in property taxes. And then 100 acres of farmland, about $44 a year increase in the property taxes. And again, that's assuming that you levy the 100% property taxes.
I have questions when these, when it's time for the bonds to go out there for sale. How do you advertise that? And like one person could go in and buy it all, right? So how do you let people know that they're up for sale? And
We'll bond counsel will put a notice in the paper, usually the Indianapolis paper and then some local papers.
do you notify the local lenders or just through that legal notice?
We'll put together what we call an official statement that lists the project. It'll have a lot of information on the county. We'll be working with Dan on getting that information. We already have, actually. It'll list the bonds, the terms, and we'll send that out to all the local banks, all the underwriters in the region, and then we'll, in the notice and in the information that we'll submit, we'll say we'll have a bond sale at 11 o'clock on this day, and we'll prepare a bid form that they can fill out and send to us on that day. And on that day, we'll get everyone's bids.
So it's a bid process.
Yeah,
Okay.
and if you do have, if you have individuals in your county that are interested in, buying bonds, not very many people can buy, $14 million worth of bonds. But if there are individuals that are interested in buying, 100,000 or, whatever increments they are, once we know the winning underwriter, we can let them know of those individuals because they'll usually be an underwriter will buy all, $14 million. Some of them they'll
One
have.
person?
Some of them they'll
One
have
underwriter.
sold to big insurance companies.
Okay.
But if they know that there's some individuals locally that are interested, we can provide them their contact and they can contact them the day of the sale and say, here, we have these bonds at this interest rate. That way some individual owners could potentially buy some of these bonds.
Okay. I just wondered how that worked.
Yeah, typically a bond size like this, with your rating, bond rating, because the county has such a strong bond rating, you typically have an underwriter that buys all 14 million, and then they'll partial them off and sell them to individual companies.
Thank you.
You have a question, Chip?
It's a real nitpicky number. On this preliminary determination, the rate is mentioned at 0.04% at the very top, and then the actual tax rate is 0.0423. What's the difference, or why is there a difference, or do you know what I'm referring to? Maybe it's just a different calculation altogether, but. You want my copy? Maybe no big deal. Up here he talks about.
Oh, that is, if you look at that, that's the amount of assessed value or bond payment to your total net assessed value. So that's saying your annual payment is 0.04% of your total tax base.
Okay.
So that's different than the interest rate on
Tax
bonds.
levy. Gotcha.
Yeah, that's just a piece of information that, for whatever reason, statute requires to kind of show of your overall annual tax payment, what percentage of that is your tax base? And since this is your only, would be your only bond issue that applies towards your tax base, that rate is, percentage is very small.
Anyone else have questions?
Dan, we don't have any bond obligations now, or we have one more payment on one?
We have the dispatch, and we have three payments.
Okay.
left on it.
Yeah, those are the bonds we refunded in 2014 that were payable from your general revenues, the dispatch revenues.
Right. Yeah, we already have money set aside
Right.
in the Cume Building Fund.
There's about 2 years
Yeah.
left on those.
We're in a
Right.
good position.
Yep. Rates are low.
Right now.
Yeah, that's one thing I should have said. I mean, rates are going up, but if you look at historically speaking, rates are still at historical lows. So again, they're higher what they were 6 months ago, but if you look at big picture, rates are still low.
Do you have anything else for us? All right. So this is where we ask if there's any public comment or questions. Oh, commissioners first. I'm sorry. Hang on, Cecilia. Don's got to give his presentation of it first.
It's sure nice to be in front of you all again. Most of you up here know kind of how we've been moving, but it's a public meeting, and I think the commissioners should address the public in a manner of saying, how did we get here? For all of you under 50, Morgan County's doubled in population since you were born. And I guess that tells you the need, because our population is not going to continue to, is not going to stop. And so instead of kicking the can, it's easy to do, we're kind of facing the facts. And we've been facing the facts, and before I became commissioner the year before, we ran a study on space. Where do we put the people that need to serve the people? And if you don't think there's a need, just go over to the commissioner's office and see how we're kind of like sardined in there.
Crammed in there.
That study, we contracted with a firm to give us some good information, give us some plans. And that's how we got to where we are. I could go into all the details and tell you all how that happened, but that was just one part of the perfect storm. We found the need, and then we've gone from there to a process which is called the BOT, that was totally new to me. But the BOT process basically helps in the manner of finding out how you fund a project once you find the need. It used to be you just go out and get some bids, and then took the lowest bid. But the problem with that was that the lowest bid often was the guy that was most sly. Well, I shouldn't say that, sly, that's not a very good word. But was good at what we call changes in the, project.
Change orders.
And those were thick. And we kept getting them, and you say, yeah, I see what your problem. Well, a BOT process takes those changes out of the equation. You get what you pay for. And that sounded really good, and it is good. We know what we're going to get when we bid it. They have to sharpen their pencil to make sure they know what they're going to go for, and it helps out. Change orders are just a nasty thing. I just kept getting them and getting them and getting them. The first 10 years, or first 8 years I was a commissioner when we'd had any project, and there were several. So bottom line is, those were the two things: the need, a new way of doing business, and finally, I think the perfect storm was, you saw it on those papers right there, the bond, how you fund that. It's a pretty good time. And so I'm pleased to see what we're doing. I think we've got a direction. We've got some good folks that know what they're doing about working with both the process and how to address those needs. So that's my comment to the public that you probably already were aware of. I'm just trying to help folks out there understand where we are and how we got here.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you, Don. Commissioner Hale?
time tonight, and I'm going to echo a little bit of what Don's talking about. We did do that space study. We hired DLZ in 2019. We got that back in early 2020. Showed us what our needs were. DLZ took the time and they worked with every department head in this county, seeing what the needs was in the courts, seeing what they were in this building, and really coming up with a really good plan that they presented to us in 2020. We followed that up, like Don said, we've started looking at a new way of doing things, and it is bought, build, operate, transfer. I really liked it for a couple of reasons. You could usually start projects, if you do a true bond only, you could actually start them within months versus bonding's gonna take a while. You saved a little money on the front end. It did do away completely with change orders. I mean, you're not allowed to do change orders on a bond. Whenever we did the courthouse the last time, we probably had almost, it seemed like almost many change orders on that courthouse as we did on the original project. And I've been through the bonding process several times. The last 3 that I can remember is the Fleet Maintenance Center. We did do the Work Release Center, Community Corrections, and then we also did the waiver sewer. That's the 3 that I was involved in pretty heavily, a little bit at the courthouse, but not as much on that. So that's the experience I've had on doing the bonds. We definitely have one of the best in the state with Jason Zimler. I appreciate what Jason has done on the Waverly Sewer Plant, and he's top notch, whether it was with Umball back when I first met him or with Baker Tilly now. He's done a great job. But we do have a need. Yeah, our office is pretty tight over here. Go to the probation. Look at some of the small offices we got our employees in. I mean, basically, they was closets. And I mean, we do have a need there. But we took the time to listen to what they did, what the department heads told DLZ, let them put it together, compile it into what we need, and just moving this project forward with security vestibule out here, phase 1, parking lot preferably, but if we can't get the cooperation with the 7 homeowners, then it'd be going vertical with the parking garage. I know we'd love to go with more space and not do the garage, but I mean, we're gonna have to let that just go. That's what you guys allowed us to start with, and that's why we're here today. But hopefully we will be able to do it with more space and not have to go vertical. But that's a reality we might have to face if we are not able to do that with all them property owners. But it sounds promising to me, but we'll just have to wait and see where it goes. The new facility out at the fairgrounds, highly needed. It's gonna put them out there where they are gonna be more visible than what they are in here, whether it's Purdue, Soil and Water, or whether it is recycling solid waste. It's going to be a lot more visible right there on Morgan Street versus in the fairgrounds or right in this building where they're at now. So be more than glad to answer any questions, but I'm excited. We need to plan for the next 20, 30 years out. It's kind of not been done in Morgan County. And we need to start looking at that. And that's what this plan is. It's looking 20, 30, 40 years out. It's not looking at just fixing the immediate needs.
I do want to say the motion was made to include funding of the parking garage at approximately $6 million. If we come to terms with the property owners and they do agree to sell, therefore eliminating the need for the parking garage, then what would we would not advertise or sell the full $14 million bonds. Is that correct?
I believe you're going to be selling right now. It just depends on how fast we can get the people agree to it. I know the appraisals have been done. I'm not for sure that all the offers have been made and where that's at. Jason or Josh and Brian's worked on more of that, so I really can't answer that for you, Vicki, but Josh probably can. But no, we're actually going to be moving forward on this total amount the way I understood it right now.
Say that again?
We're going to work on this total amount right now. But I could be wrong on that. Jason can maybe answer that, but the way that it's before you right now, it is for the full 14.9 million. That's it's what we're here for tonight, so. But we are hoping that we wouldn't have to do that, you're right.
Any further questions for Kenny?
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. This is the point in which we ask if there's anyone from the public that has any comments or questions. Cecilia, would you come up and give your name? I know your name, but everybody might not.
My name is Cecilia Kraft. I live at 11 North Jefferson Street, Martinsville, Indiana, the old Newberry building. And before I comment on this particular matter, I want to tell this council that Morgan County EMS did an absolutely fabulous job on August 20th when I had occasion to call 911. And I want to say that publicly, that the young ladies who assisted me get an A+ from me. Mr. Collier was the first one on scene. He gets an A+. I called Daniel Elliott, whom I knew, said A+. So I just want to say that those who were involved in the switchover to Morgan County EMS, bravo.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I promise you, Lord willing and the creek don't rise, I will remonstrate. So just factor that into your timetable. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public or questions from the public?
Kim, I have a question. So if we don't use all of that money for the proposed projects, right, the parking garage and then the buildings, what happens with the surplus? Like, what do we do with that?
You gonna answer that, Kenny?
Yes, I just talked to Jason just to confirm. If you guys are able to, the council commissioners able to get them 7 property owners bought before the sale of the bonds, we can reduce that. And we'll only ask for what we need. But if we haven't, we'll be asking for the full amount if we have to go vertical.
And was it said the proposed sale date would be in May? Did I hear that?
Kind of tentatively, yes. But I know they've
Does
been.
that help?
I know
Yeah.
I believe you've got all the appraisals back now, right? And you've made offers yet, or? I'm gonna let Josh answer.
Josh is trying to avoid.
I do the FEMA stuff, so I know what I do.
We have made one offer to somebody who's not remote, and we are meeting with homeowners this week. Brian and I have meetings set up with all but 2 of the homeowners who we're still trying to get in contact with. So those are all happening this week.
Okay.
Keep in mind, it's not real easy doing the FEMA homes. I had 14 in the grant. I've closed on 9 today, closed another one, 10th one Wednesday, and I've got 2 offers that I'm working on this week. So it's not always an easy process, especially whenever you got the market the way it is right now and people looking for houses to go to or rentals to go into. So thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions?
I just want to make a quick comment. I want to acknowledge 2 of the ladies are here tonight, but I did have a group of people that live in my district who are neighbors here close by that wanted to meet with me, and we discussed the overall big project. Yes, hi, ladies. And I just want to thank them. They had some great questions. They live close enough that they're definitely not fans of the parking garage, and I totally agree, and I'm totally glad that the county's pursuing trying to buy the 7 properties out. But I just want to thank them for contacting me and being so cordial and having great questions, and it was a good conversation. And again, I encourage you ladies, if you want to meet with your commissioners, to please reach out and give them a call, because they're good people and they'll talk to you too. But I just want to publicly make that comment, so thanks.
Thank you, Chip. Thanks for taking that time to do that as well.
I do want to say that, the day and age of social media is here, and sometimes we can't outwardly talk about some stuff on the horizon until the proper time, and things get said wrong and people are thinking wrong, but do feel like we are approachable. We're glad to tell you what we can. We're not out here to make any enemies. We're here to serve you, but we also have the overall picture of serving the overall Morgan County citizens as well. But don't ever hesitate to reach out, whether it be one-on-one or with a group of us, as long as we're not quorum. But thank you for doing that.
Okay. Hearing no further questions or comments, I look for a motion to close the public hearing.
Troy Sprinkle make the motion to close the public hearing.
We have a motion to close the public hearing on the preliminary determination to issue bonds for Public Works project. Do I have a second?
Jason Maxwell seconds.
Thank you, Jason. All those in favor of closing the public hearing?
Aye.
Motion to close, approved 7-0. We now will move into our public hearing on the proposed ordinance to modify the local income tax rates. And so I look for a motion to open the public hearing on the proposed ordinance to modify the local income tax rates.
Vicki Kivett makes that motion.
Kelly Acala will second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor to open the meeting signify by saying aye.
Aye.
7-0 to open the meeting. So we are in the public hearing on proposed ordinance to modify local income tax rates. And this was brought to us last meeting, as many of you, everyone recall that when we were talking about the adjustment. And so this is just moving into the requirement of this to have a public hearing on it. Any questions or comments? Dan had kind of gone over all of that with us the last time. Do we have any comments from the public on the proposed ordinance to modify local income tax rates?
I am the same person. I confess ignorance regarding this matter. I've been mostly involved with city matters and landlord-tenant issues, as I own 3 buildings, and I was injured, had Omicron. So I'll be the public hearing you. Can you please explain what this is?
Sure. Yes, please.
Yes. You know, currently, Morgan County does have a local income tax, and the county has a local income tax for what is known as certified shares, which is general revenue distributed to the county and all the other taxing units in the county. There's a rate referred to as a levy freeze, and that rate is a rate that the money from it is set aside to, I don't want to use the word reimbursement, but there was a period of time when the county could and did freeze property taxes on operating funds, and what would have been allowed as allowable increase in levies for those funds was paid with income tax rather than property tax. And then the county ended that, as well as the state has ended the authorization for that type of income tax rate, but the county is grandfathered in since the county had that rate at that time. I'll back up. The certified shares rate is $1. The levy freeze rate is 0.268. The county also has a public safety rate of 0.25 that is distributed between the county and the cities and the city and the towns in the county, and can be used for public safety purposes. The county utilizes that money currently to supplement the sheriff's budget and the jail budget, and more recently supplementing the dispatch or PSAP budget. There is also an economic development rate of 0.2 that also is distributed between the county and the city and towns in the county. And then there's a rate of 1.002 for property tax relief. And the county uses that income from that rate to reduce property taxes and provides a property tax credit on everyone's property tax bill of almost 30%. And then there's a portion of it used for a credit on homestead properties of almost 4%. And so that helps reduce and keep the property tax rates down for everyone. The total of all those rates is 2.72. The situation now with the county is that the money collected and distributed to the county for the levy freeze is in excess of what the county needs to pay to all the units for replacements of those property tax levies. And currently, the rate is bringing in $1 million more than what the county has. The county council, and that $1 million cannot be spent on anything else but the levy replacement. And so there really is no need to be collecting that $1 million because we can't spend it. That has everything to do with the fact that legislators discontinued that rate, and we're under the grandfather of that. The county can't increase that rate, so no, we don't need to, but the county council can decrease that rate. And there currently, or at least there currently is a need for more money for public safety. And so what's being proposed tonight is reducing the levy freeze rate by 0.05 and adding that to the current 0.25 public safety rate so that the total public safety rate would be 0.3. And then further designating that 5 cents to be dedicated to the dispatch or the public safety answering point service. And that's what's under proposal tonight, is reducing the levy freeze rate by 0.05, adding that to public safety, and designating that 0.05 for dispatch services. That rate reduction is estimated to be in the neighborhood of $900,000 to $950,000, and that's what we need to trim is $1 million off of the levy freeze right at the present time, and that can be done safely. I've looked at that. I proposed it to the Department of Local Government Finance at the state because it's required by statute that they review the proposed changes. And I've looked at it, and they've looked at it, and we both predict or believe that there will be no risk to losing revenue for the other taxing units, that the levy freeze replacement will still be fully funded, and no one's in jeopardy of losing any money for their budgets. But the overall rate of 2.72 would not change. The overall rate would be the same.
Well, Mr. Besson, the county is certainly going to miss you.
Amen to that.
And 0.25 plus 0.05 gets us to 0.3, my favorite number. And I'm glad you explained it to me, and I certainly heartily agree with this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that a motion?
Yes. She's like, they can do that.
The LGF.
The alphabet.
Good job, Dan. Good job.
Very good. Thank you.
We are going to miss you.
We are. That is definitely true. Big shoes to fill. All right. Any other questions? We're going to share that mic, though. Any other questions from the public? Any other questions from the council?
Anybody want to repeat that?
Yeah. Maybe a test afterwards?
I have it in black and white here if you want.
You do. You did great.
Anybody want to make a motion?
So we're
Do we need to close the public hearing first, or did we?
close the public hearing before the vote? Okay.
Yes, you'll have to close the
All
public
right.
hearing, and then the ordinance will be considered separately.
I make a motion that we close this public hearing meeting.
Kim Meredith will second the closing of the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Public meeting is closed. So we can move on to the, you have the ordinance there? Yes. What number is that? Okay, 2022-8.
Chip Keller will make a motion to approve ordinance 2022-8 to modify the local income tax rates as so finally described by Auditor Dan Baston.
Thank you, Chip. We have a motion.
Jason Maxwell seconds.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. Okay, we're out of the public hearing stuff. We did good, team.
We don't have anything to sign on that.
He'll move it down. We have a lot of stuff
Okay,
to sign.
okay.
So moving on, we're going to listen to, is Mike going to present this, or Jace, or Josh? We have the Raindrop LLC Real Property Tax Abatement Application, West Point Economic Development Area.
Madam President, members of the council, we have here this evening with us from KSM, Alexis Souter and Ryan Gallmeyer. Jason's also going to stick around to answer any questions you might have from a county perspective. But this evening, what you'll hear from KSM on behalf of the petitioner is you have in front of you an SB1 requesting a tax abatement on a, let me think about this, $41,250,000 spec building that is proposed in Morgan County in West Point Business Park. And instead of me delving into all of these details now, I'm going to bring Alexis and Ryan up so they can share the story with you that we've been working on this for a number of months in the past. The Redevelopment Commission has as well because it's in a tax increment finance district. And we're excited to announce this project to you and to the public this evening as the developer requests a little bit of tweaking of the tax abatement policy that will benefit the development in West Point Business Park. So Alexis and Ryan, if you'd like to come up.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for your time this evening. Very much appreciated. And just to clarify, Ryan Gallmeyer is with Ambrose, so they are the developer on the project.
Okay.
So just wanted to clarify. I know you guys have got the formal SB1 application, and I think some tax abatement analysis was put together, but I thought it would be helpful to just, even if for the public, right, to just kind of take a step back, review West Point Business Park, and then we can kind of delve into the specifics of
Appreciate that.
flexibility.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mm-hmm.
So again, Alexis Souter, I'm a project manager with KSM Location Advisors. Ryan Gallmeyer, he's the Vice President of Development Operations with Ambrose. And so yeah, we are here to talk to you about West Point Business Park. Ambrose has successfully, I guess, developed 3 buildings. Number 4 is coming out of the ground. And for those of you who are familiar with this location, the Morgan County line kind of runs through this bigger planned development. So if you, I can introduce the Ambrose Group just to give you guys some background on them. You know, not new to this game. Founded in 2008, they were recently named 2020 Industrial Developer of the Year by the Indiana NAIOP chapter. And they develop not just in central Indiana, but Columbus, Ohio, Louisville. They're in quite a few Midwestern markets. I don't know if you want to say anything about it, but so on that second page, the West Point Business Park, you can kind of see where that where the larger planned development is, right there, just north of I-70 and State Road 39. All in, it's a 550-acre business park, Class A, logistics, industrial development. The buildings in this park range anywhere from, or at least what's been planned, 200,000 to 1 million plus square feet. Ideally, the types of tenants that are going to be in this park, distribution, light manufacturing, assembly, those types of businesses. So specifically, again, building number 5 is, I know I know what's highlighted in red, but the building that is really ultimately like facing I-70 there on that diagonal. Thank you. On that next page, we'll have the building there, and you can see the planned park a little bit better. There are 3 parcels. There are 3 Morgan County parcels in this big planned development, right? So building number 5 is the first one to go from the Hendricks County side to the Morgan County side. And I guess really kind of full disclosure, as the park continues to be developed out kind of as planned, building 6 would probably be, or would be in Morgan County as well. Not here to talk about that tonight, but just so that you all have a heads up on how this development is being phased. So this particular building, building number 5, spec'd at 750,000 square feet. It's expandable to 1 million. Kind of unofficially, it will probably be more on the 1 million square foot side. But all the financial analysis and whatnot that we'll kind of dig into is based off of 750. So just to keep that in mind as we're talking numbers. Total capital investment for the project, as Mike mentioned, $41.25 million. In terms of the timing of when this development would get started, we're here before you this evening, just a preliminary presentation. Yes, are seeking preliminary support, but would then need to take it before RDC because it's in a TIF. And then we would come back to you guys a second time for a public hearing and then a confirmatory vote. So public approval is happening hopefully in March and April, would break ground in May. And then there's a lot of things going on with supply chain and whatnot, but ideally would be able to deliver that building then by year end 2023. So that next page, again, just to kind of give you some visual, right, to illustrate where we're talking about in relation to kind of what's been developed, and then those Morgan County parcels to the east. So you've got a site plan there and then an aerial. So yeah, you can see buildings in that aerial photo. You can see buildings 1, 2, and 3. And then, yeah, building 4 is going to be developed just to the north of building 3.
All of this is in Morgan County you're talking about?
No, sorry. So it's just, yep.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to get at. Okay.
What is Morgan County on here?
Sure, absolutely.
5 and 6.
So yes, so the Morgan County line
This
kind of
one?
comes right through here.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
And when I come back, I'm more than happy to send along kind of an aerial of the parcel lines itself.
It's Hendricks.
Is building 2 over there. This
No,
building,
it's Hendricks County.
that's correct.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So what we're here this evening, obviously giving you guys an overview of the park itself, building number 5 specifically. Again, it's speculative development. We're not coming to you with any specific end user in mind at this point in time, which would be the definition of spec. Again, total investment, $41.25. The current property tax liability for all 3 of those parcels, so again, this is 1 and some change, but just all 3 parcels all in is currently just a little over $2,000 a year. Running an abatement analysis and based on the current project specs, and even with the proposed abatement that we would be seeking your approval of for this development, this project alone would estimate, or we would estimate that $3.16 million in real property taxes over the life of the abatement, which is a 10-year term is what we're seeking approval of. And then from there, once all abatements burn off, we would be estimating that annual real property taxes come in at just a little over $600,000 a year. Again, abatement, I think that you all know, but for those in the audience who are paying attention and those who are listening at home, it is not a full tax holiday for the developer, and it's truly a benefit that is afforded to whoever that end user ends up being, right? It's a phase-in of tax liability. So even though it's 100% in year 1 in the state of Indiana, land is not abatable. So as soon as it gets reassessed, right, when you have an end user, the development is assessed, you're getting property tax revenue right out of the gate. So again, the types of end users that it's going to be marketed toward would be logistics, manufacturing, light manufacturing, distribution. I think you would find tenants probably with a lot of heavy automation, which really will tend, that lends itself to meeting a higher skilled individual, lends to higher wages, things to keep in mind, right, as we're seeking approval for abatement. And then in that box there, just kind of our real, an estimate of what property taxes estimate to be paid and to be abated over the life of the abatement. Again, what we're seeking is a 10-year traditional schedule, which is what has been approved and is in place for buildings 1 through 4 up to this point. So we've been successful working with Hendricks County. Yes, it's in the TIF, but we've been able to get a traditional 10-year schedule applied to those 4 buildings. So finally, on that last page, there are a lot of more numbers. But we, again, are here before you this evening requesting preliminary support. This isn't the final public hearing. This isn't the final approval. We wanted to be able to introduce the project to you all, answer any questions that you have. Yes, we would be asking for a vote on that declaratory resolution, but again, we'll be appearing before RDC before we appear before you all again. And then at that second council meeting, there would be a second vote for to formally confirm the abatement. That said, I think I've got the numbers there. At the end of the day, real property tax abatement on this type of a project is really just critical to getting this development and up out of the ground. Again, not a benefit to the developer. It passes through to the end user. And truly, any employer, I used to say new to market employers, but it's anybody anymore who's going to occupy this type of space. They are looking for buildings that are out of the ground, fully abated. And that's what needs to happen in this market and really for the foreseeable future. So with that said, I thank you for your time. I know I glossed over a ton, Abatement 101, talked a lot of numbers, got into property taxes, but Ryan and I are here to answer any questions that you have about the project, the bigger development itself.
Do you have any idea of the number of employees that potential companies might have in a facility that size?
It could range significantly.
Okay.
Everywhere from 1 employee per 20,000 square feet of the building down to 1 employee for 2,000 square feet of the building. So it's a big range, and it's highly dependent upon the tenant. And to what she mentioned, also Alexis mentioned earlier, it also depends on how heavily automated the facility is, if it's a distribution facility.
I have a question. Do you happen to know the existing buildings, the employees there? Is there any data showing where they live? Like, do they live within a certain mile radius of the facilities? We're just curious if these folks are going to reside in Morgan County.
There isn't, we don't necessarily keep those kind of specifics. What I can tell you is that from our overall labor analysis, this is a desirable location because there are new residential developments in the area. It's further away from the city, the metro area itself, and so that draws well for our tenants.
Can I maybe address that also, if I may?
Sure, Mike.
This site pulls right now from at least 5 counties for workforce already for this general area. One thing about Morgan County is we now have the lowest unemployment rate we've had on record, below 2% in the county. Other counties around us have a similar low unemployment rate. It's hard for us to commit to that jobs will be created for people in Morgan County when we're still lacking the housing for people to move into Morgan County. So over a period of time, we think that we'll see that population workforce be able to find houses in the county we currently don't have.
Right.
And this is the type of anchor that will help bring the housing to the county.
Oh, I agree with that. I just didn't know if there was any data to support, if people work at those facilities, live close, because, that's definitely what we want to do.
Right. I think in the region, the average commute time is like 23 minutes or less, so you can anticipate there's going to be people living as close to work as possible. If we provide the housing in Morgan County, the workforce will come. So I think that will complement this development. So I hope that information helps.
Well, and that's a growing area within our county. There's a lot of development starting to burst open there.
Within a half a mile.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Kenny, do you have something for us?
Michelle, or Melissa, I will tell you, my youngest daughter, She graduated high school. She went right to work at 70 Business Park for Johnson and Johnson there.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
She went on to get her biomedical engineering degree at Trine. The next 3 years, she actually worked there part-time during the summer, and then she did a 16-month co-op, another, after the 4th year, internship, and then she does have her biomedical engineering degree, just bought a house in Warsaw, working a cook remotely indefinitely. So they are, and we live right there at the corner of Pungavine and Wilbur. So, I mean, I know there is people right there that's willing to drive up there. It is Morgan County residents. And Johnson took care of her. So.
Okay, good to know.
I want to make just a quick comment. Before I joined the county council, I was on city council and the city redevelopment commission. I was on the Morgan County Economic Development Board for a number of years, and we've talked about West Point all those years. So I think this is exciting to finally see some development occurring there, and it's a good sign for the county.
Any other questions? So you're presenting this to us tonight, but it's not something we're taking a vote on yet, correct? Jim, did you have some clarification? Okay. You can tell this is the first time I've been through this.
Well, ditto. So I prepared and distributed, and I apparently didn't make it in your packet. It was late to me, so I just sent it, I think, on Friday, but I gave Dan a copy. It's a declaratory resolution that, it's my understanding, generally is a statement that you find that this is an economic revitalization area per the statute, and that is defined in that resolution. And then we would have a future notice, notification made, a public notice, as well as a list of government entities that are within this area we'd have to give personal service to, and then the publication notice and those delivered 10 days before a future hearing, at which point you would ratify this resolution by adopting a confirmatory resolution that essentially says the same thing. So this is kind of step one in the process. Is that correct?
Yeah, you got it.
So declaring this economic revitalization area is like the first step towards the abatement.
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
That occurs first, before they can even consider
The abatement.
Correct.
Okay.
And then you mentioned the Development Commission.
Yeah, so statutorily, because it resides within a TIF, we have to, if it was not in a TIF, we would be able to present the declaratory before you all come back a month later and not go before RDC. But because it is in a TIF, we need to appear before RDC, get their approval, and then come back for the confirmatory resolution.
Okay.
Yep.
I just want to add on to one thing Shiv made a comment. It is a long time coming. It's a very exciting time for Morgan County. I started with Jeff Weil, Pete Foley, Lisa Lee, got to meet Jason Simler back in 2005 on this project. It took us 1 year just to get the letter of intent and the MOU done on this. At least 3 to 4 meetings, telemeetings a week. We got it done, and this is an exciting time for me.
Absolutely.
It's a long time coming.
Yeah.
So if the council chooses to do something, the council can tonight act on the declaratory resolution, correct?
Yes.
I don't think I have a copy.
I didn't have a copy of that.
I'm not directing this at this project, but TIF in general. Can't a county put stipulations that they hire a certain amount of people, or?
Well, I don't think we do with a developer. I think we're.
So we, just across the board, we do a lot of work in Indiana, right? Different communities, different counties, they handle it differently. There's absolutely, there are plenty of municipalities out there that say, hey, even though it's spec, we want to guess on what the number of jobs and those, wages are going to be. But my perspective, and I think they're just guesses, right? And so we can throw some numbers out there, but it's really, it comes down to the end user that occupies that space. And there are, we could definitely put some industrial standards in there, but it's just a guess, So there's definitely some merit to just, for the speculative nature of it on the SB1, not make up numbers for the sake of making up numbers.
And it's very unique. I mean, it's right on the county
yeah.
line, and the majority of that park
That's
is in
why I
Hendricks
said I'm
County.
not necessarily directing
Sure,
at this
no, I just
project,
wanted to
but,
provide some perspective,
yeah,
just.
we don't deal with TIF a whole lot, and
And
clear
I
where the
wanted to
co-
go to that. With this park being split down a county line, how does this TIF work between us and them?
Years ago, when this TIF was created, both counties decided that the TIF revenues would be managed by Hendricks County, because Hendricks County basically was looked at as the lead dog in the sense of the majority of the acreage is in the county. Out of the 550 acres, about 190 are in Morgan County, the rest of them are in Hendricks County. We anticipated, those who did this back in the day before all of us, anticipated that the utilities would be coming out of Hendricks County because that's where the utilities were, where the growth was already being established. So in that sense, as the joint TIF district, it's been designed so that Hendricks County would manage that money. So I want to also point out, secondly, if I'm not mistaken, if this tax abatement were to be transferred to an end user, this
Right.
body politic would approve that transfer of that tax abatement.
Yes, yeah,
Right.
yeah. When when somebody
Right.
purchases the building,
That's right.
yes, it flows with the property, so.
Well, it flows with the property if this body politic permits it to.
That's a good legal question. I don't know that it requires another council approval. I'm confident that it does.
So if stipulations aren't added on the front end, so to speak, then there are no stipulations. It kind of flows as it's written in the beginning.
Right, the abatement is affixed to the property itself,
I'm
so.
going to encourage you not to make those types of stipulations. Let the market reward Morgan County with their good work.
Absolutely.
That would be my summary.
Thank you, Mike.
Is, one more thing, is there anything in the works of reworking the way that TIF was set up originally? Because things have changed quite a bit since that was set
Yes,
up.
there has been discussion about that among the redevelopment commissions within both counties. That discussion is ongoing. Councilman Sprinkle's aware of that from the RDC perspective. None of that has been decided tonight, and none of that is relative to this declaratory resolution. This tax abatement would live regardless of future TIF, right? If we redesign a TIF, make it bigger, make it smaller, cut it in half, this tax abatement is all we're worried about tonight. That work goes on with the RDC on the other level. And then conceivably, this tax abatement someday could exist in a new TIF district that would have been created. But for the moment, that's just all speculation and conversation.
Okay.
We're going with what we have on the site right now. I hope that helps.
It does. Thank you.
This is the property that was the old plan for amusement park, correct? Yeah.
Garfield Water Park.
If I don't mind, again, Jason, similar to Baker Tilly, and I think to answer your question, when this area was first created, and had a developer that was planning on building the entire area out, over time, and there were bonds issued, and actually Hendricks County issued those bonds, and TIF from their portion of the tax increment plus your portion, if anything ever got developed, was pledged to those bonds. Those bonds are still outstanding. So if this project were to occur and there's TIF generated, those would be pledged and paid towards those bonds. As you know, nothing's happened for a number of years, but there has been talk about renegotiating for the county to help, because that bond just only paid for the current infrastructure that's out there now. As you know, there's additional infrastructure that's needed.
Yeah.
So the goal is that these buildings will help pay for the infrastructure that they need, plus for future development. So,
And those bonds are held by
yeah.
the landowner himself.
Oh.
So the person taking all the risk.
Wow.
I think that's important to know.
And anything that we're negotiating, with the redevelopment commission now, that would also be purchased by the developer. So if, buildings, 4 and 5 don't get developed, the landowner or the developer is going to take on all the risk, just as the outstanding bonds are. So it is a very positive thing, being involved with the first development that, never did happen because it was right in 2007, 2008. Not the best time to be building big buildings. So this is very promising for that area, and again, will just help pay for the infrastructure that they're needing in their future buildings when they.
Dan is making us copies of this so that we each have a copy of it to look through if you have questions on it, so that's where he ran off to.
I'd like to add a comment too while he's doing that. I drive by the project every day, and I work with the folks that are around there every day. And it's in my area, this is exciting.
It is.
Thank you for the opportunity. I mean, you know, we see the buildings sitting there, and they're in our friend's backyard to the north, and I love those folks up there, but you know what? We get our opportunity, and here we go. So thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
It's like driving by and watching a kid eat ice cream and you don't get any, right?
Finally getting some. Yay. And just an FYI, they're a pleasure to work with. They really are. We're on those conference calls on Wednesdays, and they are a pleasure to work with.
Good. We don't have anyone in attendance tonight from that area, though, do we? No. I didn't know if we'd have anyone from the Monrovia Town Council or anyone tonight, with this being that, kind of their part of the county. I can pass this down. I've read over it. If you guys want to pass it down and look at it until he gets us copies of it, or if you want to read through it, Vicki, or somebody. Oh, there he comes. I told him you were getting his copies. I'll share mine. Down. There it is. Silly question, but is that the same group that owns the ones that are there currently? Is Raindrop LLC?
I mean, they own them in different LLCs, but yes.
Okay, under different,
Correct, that was the original land, or the landowner when they were developed.
okay.
And you're not aware of any specific prospects to occupy that building?
It is a popular time, and there are many tenants that would love the opportunity to be in this facility if it were under construction and near
Okay.
completion.
Great. Could my Amazon packages get to me faster?
We're trying. That's the other part of our business.
Brett says,
But
no,
if you want your
no.
UGG boots, Deckers is one of our tenants. So, they've got
All right, did everybody have a copy and have a chance to review it?
Yeah. Madam President, are you looking for a motion to proceed with the declaratory resolution?
I am,
I will
Councilman.
make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion to approve the declaratory resolution for the designation of economic revitalization area on the application for Raindrop LLC, West Point Building LLC. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you so
you.
much. Appreciate it.
We appreciate you.
Good luck.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. All right, where am I? Back to I've lost my agenda.
Thank you for all your efforts.
Okay, so that one. Nearing the end, folks. Do we have any other business to come before the council this evening? Hearing none, I look for a motion to adjourn.
Kivett makes said motion.
Second that motion?
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0.